Welcome back to Meet the Authors. I'm your host, Dr. Philip Levin. Today's segment we have Thomas E. Simmons. Thomas, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, Philip. It's a pleasure.
It is a pleasure, always. You always look so distinguished in your grays and white, and you're just a fine old gentleman author. I like that. You're from Mississippi?
Yes, I was actually not born here, but I've been here since I was 3 years old. So
that pretty much counts, yeah.
That counts, I hope. Yeah. Only place I've known is home.
Always here on the coast?
Well, I've been a restless native, but yes, this is my home. I've been on 5 continents and done a lot of travel for business.
What kind of business? What kind of work did you used to do?
Well, I was a sales engineer with ports and harbors equipment, and it took me a lot of interesting places, like Albania, for instance.
That would be an interesting place.
But this is home, and I love it.
Yeah, I love South Mississippi too. And your books are set here on the coast, huh?
Yes, well, they're set from Vicksburg. It starts with a family that owns a plantation in Vicksburg. At the end of the Civil War, we follow the life of a very interesting lady for 50 years to the beginning of World War I.
And that's the first book. Show us the first book.
Okay. This is
a book of 3. This is the first one in the series.
Goes through the siege of Vicksburg and on towards the beginning of World War I. And all of it, for a novel, it's unusual to have 2.5 pages of reference checks, but I wanted the reader to know that in this series, the research has been very detailed in any event or setting or dress or food or historic characters that appear in this series are real, and they can factually check that out. They can depend on the history that is through this series, a lot of history.
Now you said it follows the family, but you said the main character in the first book is a woman.
That's right.
And she has children and they go off to the war, or how does that work?
Well, it's mysterious. I don't want to give it all away. She writes a diary, and the character in the second book, Ansel Quinn, it's the Quinn family saga, and he thinks his mother and father are John and Louisette, Jonathan and Louisette Quinn. He'll find later in the series that that's not who he is. And then the second book.
Show us the second book.
Sure. The second book is World War I.
The Last Quinn Standing. The
Last Quinn Standing. He is sent before the United States gets into the war by the Army as a neutral observer. Headquartered at French headquarters in Paris, and his job is to see what is happening in the war and to record that and report it back. The United States didn't have an intelligence service. President Wilson wouldn't fund one, and said, "Gentlemen don't read gentlemen's mail."
Yeah, and he was a very strong peace candidate too, wasn't he? He was like,
yes, he was. So this
stay out of World War I no matter what. See how well that worked.
It didn't work too well, and he gets wounded even though he's not directly in combat, which causes and could have caused an international brouhaha. But he recovers, and then we go to this book.
And this is your newest one, No Promise for Tomorrow. That just came out.
No Promise for Tomorrow.
Just came out this month, last month, January.
Yeah, he meets and marries a beautiful girl from
man
Memphis.
From the second one.
Yes, and Ansel meets Isabel, and in this book, it covers the period from World War I, the end, to the beginning, World War II, and a lot of people aren't aware that that was just 20 short years. And in this book, it covers those 20 years. They have children, and you see the family grow. But during those 20 years, you had the influenza epidemic, which killed 25,000 of our soldiers in Europe in World War I. And you have prohibition, you have the Roaring '20s, you have the Great Depression, and then the beginning of World War II. And all that is covered in this
Makes you
book.
glad that you're living nowadays.
Well,
those years.
you
Those
know,
were tough years, guys.
they were very tough years, and we see them move from, went back to the plantation in Vicksburg. His uncle, for helping the Cubans prior to the Spanish-American War, and during the Spanish-American War, he partnered with a Cuban for a 4,000-acre sugar plantation. So they have the sugar plantation and the plantation in Vicksburg, and he goes off in the army after marrying Isabel and leaves her to run all that. Mm. And quite a remarkable woman. Yep. And we see the facts and figures and well-researched that period, that 20-year period, which was a horrendous time. Mm. And it's horrendous for these people too, but you'll see that from Vicksburg to Washington to New York to Paris to Cuba, yeah, where they get involved in some espionage work in Cuba. So it's a fun book, and the reader, all these books stand alone. You don't have to start with By Accident of Birth and then Last Quinn and then this one. You can pick any of them up, and they stand alone, and you'll enjoy the read.
Is there going to be a fourth in the series?
You know, the way I end this book, I don't really want to do that, but I might have to do that.
There's more of a story to tell, is there?
There's possibly, yes, indeed.
And so this is your 8th book, huh?
My 8th book,
And
yes.
are they mostly all historic fictions like this?
No, these are my first fiction books. These 3, the other 5 books are nonfiction.
What are they about?
Well, one is about an American merchant seaman in World War II. That's Escape from Archangel. I have the book Forgotten Heroes of World War II, which went into a second printing, then was bought by another press, and is in a second edition. You know, most people don't realize that second printing is simply the same book printed again. Yeah. If you see second edition, or third edition, the word edition means you've added to it.
At least changed it, yeah.
You've
my murder mystery has a second edition because there are some errors in it. But
well,
second edition.
In the second edition of Forgotten Heroes, there are some more stories.
More stories in
of World War II.
And is that the one that was picked up by Poland?
Yes.
It's a Polish
It was picked up at the German Book Fair at Frankfurt, and so they sent me a copy of my book of Forgotten Heroes published in Poland, and the only word that I can read is my name on the cover.
Great
but it
addition.
was very, you know, I've always liked Poland. They were the most ill-treated, freedom-loving people. We gave them up to Russia after the Second World War, and that was after Germany had torn through. But the Polish people, the Free Poles, fought bravely for England, and a Polish squadron in the RAF had the highest kill score of any squadron during the Battle of Britain.
I had no idea.
Yet they were not allowed to participate in the victory parade because they thought it would upset Stalin.
Yes. Yeah, well, I guess we lost our sensitivity to Stalin after that. Yes.
But
Cold War.
Then I wrote the nonfiction book about the man called Brown Condor, which both of those books have won gold medals.
You're doing a great job. It's great to
well, it's fun. You know, writers, somebody said, well, why do you write? And I've always thought that people who write because they have to. They're just driven inside. They're driven
fire
to write.
In your heart.
You're like that with all of your books.
I love to write, no doubt about it. Tom, we are out of time today. It has been a delight to have you on the show. Thanks for coming by and talking about your books.
It's been a pleasure, and I've really enjoyed it, and always enjoy your
Hold your book up
company.
one more time to the camera and put
There
up
you
where
are.
they can get the book.
No accident. No, excuse me, I'm getting my books confused. No promise for tomorrow.
No problems tomorrow. And you get them any local place, Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, any local bookstore
Sure.
online. They're available as an ebook, so that's great. Tom, we didn't get a chance to read from it, unfortunately, but it was wonderful having you on the show. And check out the YouTubes for the prior episodes. This is Phil Levin, host of Meet the Authors.
We undid tyranny. We undid callousness and hopelessness. We undid evil and evil's evil twin. We've come a long way. We undid impossible and impossibly impossible.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
We undid indignity and carelessness. Just look at all we've undone. Certainly, we can undo overwhelming. It's time to undo climate change. Undo your part. There's a simple, bipartisan solution to climate change Congress needs to hear about. Go to undoyourpart.com.